My next guest is Grace Gavigan, who is Miss Earth Wales 2024. Now, Grace is a full-time student. I'm just reading her bio. That's why I'm looking to the side. I'm not doing something else. Full-time student pursuing a law degree at Wales' top university with aspirations of becoming an environmental lawyer. She has been a dedicated volunteer with the Wildlife Trust in the UK for over 10 years, driven by a passion for protecting the earth from a young age. Crowned Miss Earth Wales in May, Grace has had a busy reign, even speaking with members of the Welsh Parliament about sustainable tourism. Her advocacy centres around the Pollinator Pathways Community Project, which aims to create native mini wildflower havens in her local community. She recently returned from the A-Sisterhood trip to India, where she visited the Sheroes and the Wildlife SOS charity sanctuary. So, Grace, that's pretty comprehensive. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is an interview I've been looking forward to for a while now since we've had it in the calendar. But I can't wait to chat with you.
Yes, I have some experience with your director. I don't know if she said any good things about me. I certainly haven't said any good things about her.
All good,
But
all good.
it's her birthday in a few days.
I know.
Are you going to
Can't
do
wait.
anything?
We got a few surprises at Bass Leaves, but I don't know. We'll
Okay.
see.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Well,
No,
Grace, you just got back from India, so why don't we start with that? What were you doing over in India? Because it sounds like you guys, well, it looked like, because I was following you on Instagram, obviously, looked like you guys got up to a lot. So what was the Indian trip about?
So basically, that was one of the prizes for winning Miss Earth Wales. So we fundraise as finalists for this organisation for a charity called A-Sisterhood, which is a UK-based charity which creates two words, assist and sisterhood, puts them together and basically sets about to help women across the world. So one of the main reasons that we went out to India is to see the work that we were funding to help acid attack survivors. And when I tell you what, they are some of the most incredible, inspirational women I have ever met. And this is an opportunity that I can't thank Paula, the director of the trip, enough for. I've made so many incredible memories, been able to network and gain experience from so many incredible people out there. But I feel like all my friends are sick of hearing about this trip because it's something I just keep talking about.
Well, I'm not sick about it. I haven't heard about it yet. So let's talk about it a bit more. Can't speak. Now, I just interviewed a contestant from Ireland who's heading over to Miss International, and she was saying so she had just gotten back from India, and her experience was transformative, but also somewhat confrontational in terms of what she saw the poverty as an abject poverty. Particularly with some children, very young children, and that affected her deeply. So what was your trip over there like in terms of, I mean, have you been there before? And what was it like, obviously, going from a first world country such as Wales to India, where you can see huge wealth, but at the same time, you can see some abject poverty?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. Like, I'd say the only word I could use to describe my trip was an absolute culture shock in more ways than one. To be able to engross myself in another country's culture and heritage, which in India is incredibly rich and vast, was something that was really eye-opening for me. But it also put so many things into perspective for me as my own wealth and my own privilege, obviously being here in a first world country. But I think the Indians were just so accommodating to us. They embraced us with open arms, and I couldn't thank them enough for their hospitality. But absolutely, I agree with Miss International Ireland, like you just said. It definitely was an eye-opener and put into perspective how lucky we are here, and encourages me to continue my humanitarian work, to continue funding these organisations to help these people and share their stories as well. Because at the end of the day, this is such an amazing platform to share a multitude of stories. And if we could all come together and acknowledge that and embrace that, I feel like that's something that's really important.
I didn't know A-Sisterhood. I was aware of A-Sisterhood. I've been aware of it for a very long time. This is the first time anyone's told me it's assist and sisterhood. So thank you for that. Now, you mentioned survivors of acid attacks. I think it's important to clarify to people who are watching live or the replay what exactly that means, because they might be a bit confused by acid attacks. Like, are you talking about acid in terms of
Yeah.
actual acid? I know that you are, but can you just clarify for people, the people you're working with, the acid attack survivors, what had
hmm
happened there?
So necessarily, acid attacks are quite a big problem in India. Acid's so cheap out there to purchase, and it's used as a tool of violence and revenge. So these women, they've often rejected marriage proposals or any other sort of proposal, and it's viewed as a form of revenge. So basically, if the person, the perpetrator, cannot have that woman, he will scar her so no one else can. And what I found absolutely heartbreaking for me is that when these acid attack survivors were telling their story, that they've had people, the general public, look at them and think, what has she done to deserve that? So
Mm.
it's placing the reflection back onto the victim, which I find absolutely shocking. Like these poor women, like it's a heinous crime to go through to scar someone so deeply, but the fact that they've been able to come out the other side and share their story and move on with their lives and empower others is something I'll constantly look up to, and I'd love to go back to India and continue my work out there with them.
Well, you're an aspiring lawyer, so can I just ask, what happens to the perpetrators of these acid attacks? Are they held to account? Because it certainly seems to me that they should be. But what
Yeah.
actually happens to these men who throw acid on these women?
So often enough, there's a lot of fear mongering around it. Either the police can, like they don't have the resources to identify these perpetrators. The legal system is very expensive. Not a lot of people can
Right.
afford to bring these people to justice. There was an act passed in India which allowed prison sentences and fines to increase. I know the compensation is another huge aspect of it. So actually giving the victim money, because at the end of the day, a woman's beauty, a woman's face, it's so important not only for jobs but marriage prospects. So it's
Mm.
a huge factor in our lives. So being a victim of acid and acid attacks, it it absolutely changes the gravity and centre of your world. So it's really important that these people are brought to justice. But I feel like the legal system now out there is being reformed. There
Okay.
are a lot of changes and revolutionaries made to ensure that these victims do seek justice. But it's important to note that 90% of these victims are female. And
Mm.
obviously, there's a huge gender imbalance in our justice systems. And then, I mean, by the time you survey the evidence, because it's such a massive crime, it's grievous bodily harm,
Yeah.
by the time you circumvent, like, disclose all that, it's a really lengthy process, and often there's not enough resources. So that's why this work's so important to fund these charities to help these women move on with their lives and get justice.
Mm.
So as a lawyer, that's really
Absolutely.
important to me to see these women given the tools to be able to move on and share their stories and overcome these stereotypes and barriers, break down these barriers that prevented them from moving on.
Can I ask? I mean, obviously, the fundraising hugely important, and
hmm
supporting the victims hugely important. I'm just wondering, what is the root cause of this? What culturally, or sort of cultural beliefs, are leading to this sort of conclusion that men feel like they have the right to go and buy acid and throw it in anyone's face, whether it's a
Yeah.
woman or a man? Because I mean, I have
hmm
to say, I can't understand it. I mean, given
No.
there's a lot of behaviors in society right now that I can't understand.
Yeah.
But the thought of, grabbing obviously concentrated acid
hmm
and then throwing it in somebody's face
Yeah.
just because they, in inverted commas, rejected you. I mean,
hmm
did you come to any understanding of maybe why that's happening, so that we can reduce the incidence of it happening in the future?
I feel like, in my opinion, there need to be stronger implementations on accessing acid. That's the root of it. Obviously, we can go
Right.
into schools and we can educate young people and general cultural, varying ages and genders. I feel like education is the sole root of the solution to this issue. It's okay to be embarrassed, rejection's natural, but resorting to acid attacks, is this seriously something that we've reduced ourselves to? But I'll go back to my previous point on being able to access acid. It's cheaper than water. How is that? How is such a dangerous, corrosive material so accessible? So if we're able to take these acids off the streets, limit
Mm.
their accessibility, I feel like that will greatly reduce these acid attacks. Because at the end of the day, something that's so dangerous should not be made so easy to come by. Because I
Yeah.
don't know what the restrictions are on purchasing acid. What is the age limit? I mean, there's just so many issues that I feel like if our government or the government out there were able to take this into hand, put stronger laws and get groundwork on there to prevent this acid from being
Yeah.
purchased, that's something I'd really like to see.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, just thinking about it here, I don't think it'd be particularly easy for me to go out and buy that sort of acid. Wouldn't be
Yeah.
impossible. You're not talking about gun restriction level, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be easy. And it's not cheap. I mean, I don't want to harp on this point too much, but is there any particular reason why acid is so cheap, cheaper than water? Do they need it for some other reason over in India that I'm just unaware of?
I'm not entirely sure, but I agree with you that it should not be that easy accessible. I mean, I don't know if it's
Mm,
a byproduct and that's why it's being produced to
could be.
increase profit for everything else as in
Yeah.
terms of waste, but no, I totally agree in the sense that it should not be as easy accessible as it is.
What else did you get up to in India? I mean, obviously, you sounded like you did some amazing work. Did you get any downtime? Did you get to enjoy yourself, experience a culture, try some Indian food, all that good stuff?
I had lots of Indian food. It's been a bit of a shock coming back to Wales because it's not near as tasty and flavourful. Me and one of the other girls, we absolutely love paneer.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
never stop going on about paneer. I love it. So it's been hard coming back to typical bland Welsh food. I'm like, I really need to up my game, but yeah, university accommodation's not allowing for the most flavourful meals, so I definitely need to
Oh,
get myself in check. But no,
yeah.
India was absolutely incredible. We had the opportunity to visit the Taj Mahal, which we had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for. So definitely was a bit of a shock for me. But it was absolutely incredible. So, so beautiful. But so, so crowded so early in the morning. But no, it's one of the things that I'll never forget, seeing the sunrise over the Taj Mahal. We also got to visit the Wildlife SOS charity, which made me absolutely sob because elephants are one of my favourite animals. So being able to see them in person, thriving, receiving love and care, and being able to embrace their natural environment was something so magical for me to see, especially considering that these elephants were victims of abuse for human profit and gain. Being able to see them come out the other side, these elephants are survivors, and also the work that Wildlife SOS is doing to continue advocating for our elephants to try and save them, as after all, they are a keystone species. They are so important for biodiversity.
Right.
So it's really important to continue our advocacy for them and ensure that we can basically prevent elephants from being abused for human entertainment and profit.
When you say they were being abused, was it was it not just for, but was it for entertainment purposes, like in circuses? I mean, elephants
Yeah.
also are sought after sometimes for the ivory in their trunks, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just slaughtered for that. Was it either of those, or was it something else?
I'd say the ivory issue is more predominant in the
Mm,
African elephants, but more so out in India. I know that they have a Hindu god, which has
yep,
an elephant head. So I know it's a lot of
yep,
cultural practice, but when speaking to the guys at Wildlife SOS, they said there's no Hindu scripture or words that say that the elephant should be used in that way. I know they use a lot at wedding ceremonies. One of the elephants we were able to see, she was chained and bound in a Hindu temple and used in these cultural ceremonies. And you just think these magnificent, gentle creatures being used in such a way. If only we could embrace them and see them in their natural habitat, thriving and respect them in that sense.
mm,
Circus is also another huge issue. One of the elephants recently passed away, Susie. She was their eldest elephant. She was found on the side of a road after the circus found out that she had gone blind in both eyes, so she was abandoned.
yeah, right,
So after years of abuse and service, it was really heartbreaking to see these animals just left for dead and
yeah,
abused in such a way just for our human entertainment. Tourist traps as well is another huge issue. But also as well, we learned a lot about the dynamic of wealth and elephants. There's a lot of millionaires, there's a lot of people who use these elephants for profit, and the reason why this problem's so hard to tackle is because they are such an important tool for tourism and gain, like generating net worth. A lot of millionaires have them as a symbol of status and wealth, and obviously they're not going to want to compensate on that.
Yeah.
So I feel like there needs to be, once again, stronger legal implementations on owning an elephant, or even then ensuring that if they are in captivity and they are unable to return to the wild, like we saw in Wildlife SOS, that they're receiving sufficient vet checkups, that they are healthy and happy, have a sufficient living space and environment, receiving good diet and fed, and not being abused for work. So I don't know, it was very hard hitting, but it encouraged me to continue fundraising and advocating for them. And I'd love to go back out to India and volunteer with Wildlife SOS.
That'd probably get you out of the Welsh weather. That probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
Get me back.
A bad thing either. I mean, I interviewed Miss Earth Australia, I think yesterday or the day before, and I was telling her, because you mentioned about the elephants and part of the problem being the status. And it's a very similar thing, at least it used to be in Chinese culture, with a dish that's called shark fin soup, which is literally soup that's made of shark fin. The weird thing is the shark fin has no taste. The taste actually comes from the broth itself, which is made from ham and other things. And what was happening was that these fishermen would catch a shark, huge sharks, cut off the fins, cut off the tail, then throw the shark back in the water where obviously it can't swim away. It's going to die. But because now it's bleeding, guess what? More sharks come. And so these people then can catch the other sharks, cut their fins off, throw them back in. So it becomes this vicious cycle. Yeah. And the whole thing was because the idea is that if you somehow have shark fin soup, that makes you more of a man, or, it's status, because obviously a shark is an apex predator.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's face it, you're just buying the soup. You're not actually going and hand wrestling a shark. And thankfully, some people brought awareness to it. And now I'm pretty sure it's outlawed in a lot of countries. You can't get it here in Australia. Mind you, I'd never want to have it again after finding out exactly where it comes from. But it's that, I was going to say, I find it very difficult to understand a human being who can abuse an animal for any reason. I mean, I've had pets my whole life. I mean, at the moment, I've got a cat. He's completely dependent on me. And this idea that you could abuse an animal, something that's with you day in, day out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just very confusing to me. I mean, do you feel the same way where you're just looking at some humans' behavior and going, I don't understand how you can do that?
No, I totally agree with you. As a cat lover myself and a general animal lover, I feel like it's a point of education. It's the way that you're brought up to view these animals. If they're viewed as a working tool, you're obviously going to view them as an inanimate object. I know the construction of the Taj Mahal was built off elephants, using them to transport these incredibly heavy materials. I mean, a lot of people view animals as vermin in some sense, as an inanimate object, a way of generating money. So I feel like it really depends on the way you've been brought up to view animals. And that's why education is such an important tool, in my opinion. And that's why I really love being the voice for the voiceless. These animals are totally dependent and they cannot advocate for themselves, especially against humans, like as the supreme race, which I absolutely hate. And as human beings with so many tools and the power of knowledge, the fact that we can abuse this in order to, I really can't understand it. But once again, that's why I'll forever hammer home the point of education and why it's so important to spread awareness of these issues to ensure that we can tackle them and overcome. Because although criticism is an important point, we need to provide a solution. Because ultimately, that's the only way we're going to stop these issues.
Yeah. Part of me, I think education, I agree with you, is absolutely imperative. Part of me also just wonders, are some people missing basic human empathy?
Yeah.
Because, when you see a young child and they're playing with a cat or playing with a young cat, with a young puppy, and, the cat and dog know in general terms to be very gentle with a baby, and there's no harm, there's no abuse there. And it's not like the kid has been educated. To me, it just seems
No.
natural to have empathy for
Yeah.
other living things. So education, I think, for some, like, to bring awareness to certain issues, absolutely. Sometimes I just feel like some people are missing an empathy bone or something. Like something has
Yeah.
gone maybe
No, I totally
horrifically
get
wrong in
that.
their
Yeah.
own life. And like, why would you? Okay, I get your point. Like, it's a tool, but
Mhm.
obviously it's not just. And by the way, I wouldn't abuse my tools either. I take care of my things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see the point of like just trashing
No.
everything. And so, yeah, it's just I feel like some people really just need an empathy
Yeah.
implant or something like that.
Yeah.
But I need
I think
to
so too.
ask you. So you've obviously got a lot of information stored in that head of yours, and I know that you've been doing this not for just the past 5 months, but going on for a long time. And how did this all happen? How did young Grace get interested in the environment?
Oh my God, this is a topic I could talk about forever. So
Okay,
I've
good.
always had an
I'll go.
immense we'll sum it up, we'll sum it up. So I've always had an immense passion for our natural world and our wildlife. Growing up, I spent every waking moment I could out in the garden trying to attract wildlife, whether it be putting birdseed out for the birds, exploring my local beach, doing seashore safaris, seeing what's in the rock pools. But I'd say what was the catalyst for my love and my passion was when I joined the Wildlife Trust's Youth Forum at the age of 8. So I was able to gain experience and knowledge of these other volunteers who had been with the Trust for years and develop my understanding on our Welsh wildlife and wild places. So over my years of volunteering, I've had countless opportunities interacting with others. It's
Mhm.
such a community is such an incredible tool. I'll keep going on about tools, but education and community is something that's so important in terms of tackling the climate crisis and sharing our knowledge and understanding with others to develop solutions to these issues. So no, I've had countless opportunities. Like I know I said in my bio that that I had the opportunity to speak to members of Welsh Parliament earlier this year
Mm.
about sustainable tourism here in Wales. Like, how many people know that we've got dolphins off the coast of West Wales and the fact that we don't have to go abroad to see these animals in captivity is
Hmm.
something that I feel has definitely shaped me as a person and has taught me so much about myself. But it's also something I know I want to leave behind for others, a legacy. But definitely
I,
volunteering's the catalyst.
I've lived in Wales for periods of months at a time. I did not know there were dolphins. There are
Yeah,
dolphins?
not many people know. I was really lucky to go out on a survey boat trip in Cardigan Bay, and seeing these animals foraging, playing with each other is something so magical. And being out on these countless boats and surveying trips, you'll often see families and even grown men are stood there in awe. And there's something so magical about seeing people from all walks of life, their eyes light up seeing these animals in the wild. It's magical. And that's something that
Yeah.
I feel like is really important because nobody's going to care about what they haven't seen and nobody's going to protect what they haven't witnessed. So that's why I continue to encourage people to go out, spend time out in nature, and truly witness what we have to protect.
Tell me more about Welsh biodiversity. Like, as a tourist, if I was
Mm-hmm.
to go to Wales, what are some of the different things I could see? And again, I've been to the west coast of Wales.
Yeah,
I've stayed in a lighthouse of all places. It was a boutique hotel that
but
was
that was
built into an
so
old
cool.
lighthouse. It was very weird because the room was circular. It kind of does. You also don't know which way you're
Oh,
facing because the room is round. It's like a donut. We went through Snowdonia, I think it was
yeah,
called. Saw some very ancient shale, or I don't know whether, very interesting rock formations.
yeah,
Huge trees. Drove through the forest for probably a good hour or so. Massive ancient trees.
yeah.
But clue me in here. So, what are some of the different things from a biodiversity, from an environmental viewpoint? If I went to Wales, what's some of the different things that I could see?
Yeah, so here in Wales, we're so lucky to have a multitude of different habitats. Our sand dunes are something that's really important here for biodiversity because there's so many species that rely on them. As well, our mountainous terrain, like you've just mentioned, One of my favourite walking places is Pen y Fan, which is the highest point in
Oh,
South
yeah.
Wales.
Yep.
We have an array of bird life. One of my favourite places that I'd recommend people to visit is Skoma and Skockum Island off the coast of West Wales, which has an immense population of seabirds, from the Manxia water to the puffin with a big orange beak, which is something really cool to witness, especially during the early spring months when the island is covered in bluebells. So seeing these seabirds and seeing all arrays of wildlife, we got foxes, we got badgers, we got the red squirrel, which is currently facing rapid decline. It encourages us to protect these multitudes of different habitats, our ancient woodlands, like you've just said. These are habitats that cannot be replaced, they cannot be built back up, so that's why it's so important that we protect them now before it's too late and we're forced to rebuild them, because at the end of the day, you can't replace a wild place. As good as replanting is, the better solution is to put in stronger implementations to ensure that they're protected now rather than later and face catastrophe. But more particularly here in Wales, we are facing a biodiversity crisis, much like we are across the world. A lot of people know about the climate crisis, but they don't know about the biodiversity crisis, which is intrinsically linked.
Yeah.
And so, as I was saying, here in Wales, 1 in 6 species are at risk of extinction. And that's something that was particularly startling to me, and I knew I had to take action on. And that would bring me on to my Pollinator Pathways Community Project, which aims to help biodiversity on a local level to achieve global action by helping our declining pollinators like bees, butterflies, and moths, which is so important for our ecosystems.
Let's dig into that a bit more. I know a little bit about the importance of bees as an example, maybe pollinators in general. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is it's not just a bee, but it's part of a very complex chain that nature has created and perfected over millions of years. And the problem is if one part of that chain disappears or is damaged, it can have massive multiple flow-on effects, very often unpredictable flow-on effects as well. I mean, it's literally called the butterfly effect for a reason, because you take out some butterflies and you have no idea what's going to happen down the track. But I mean, this sounds fascinating in terms of what you're doing. I do love the fact that it's local, because at least as a start, because then people can get involved. Sometimes I feel that we go too high and mighty and we have these great goals, but it's like, well, what can I actually do? So tell me more about this project, and if people wanted to get involved, how can they get involved and what can they look forward to?
Absolutely. So the Pollinator Pathways Community Project is something that I started earlier this year as a Miss Earth Wales finalist. I knew I wanted to do something community based, reach out to my local health board. I've been overwhelmed with the support that I've received from my local community. I truly couldn't thank them enough in giving me the grounds and the assistance to carry out this project. So necessarily, it sets out to plant mini wildflower havens, but also go into my local community groups and educate them on the importance of protecting our pollinators. So I've been overwhelmed to receive the support from charities, my local health board, because as we know, nature is so important, not only for our physical health, but our mental well-being as well. So that partnership was really lovely to receive. I've had multiple school visits, which is really lovely because we always hammer home about education. But at the end of the day, our newest generations are the ones that are going to be living with these ramifications of climate change. So if we can start to educate them now on the solutions and what we can do to help tackle these issues, this is something that they can continue throughout their lives and share with others, but also pass on to their future generations. But the Pollinator Pathways Project is a labour of love and something that I'd love to continue as Miss Earth. I believe that this has the wings to go global. As I've said, these mini wildflower havens are planted using native wildflower seeds. Here in the UK, over 97% of our wildflower meadows have been lost, and this is vital habitat. So you can imagine how startling that is. So to be able to enrol this project across the world, wildflower seeds, they're not very expensive. If it's using barren, wasted land, there's so much barren, wasted land. These wildflower seeds are incredibly independent. They don't need much TLC. Obviously, it reduces the risk of pesticides. they're incredibly healthy habitats and something that can be achieved across the world very accessibly and easily. We all have native wildflowers. So to be able to help our pollinators across the world is something that's really important. Because as I've said in previous interviews, the bee has been declared the most important species on Earth.
Mm.
And that is detrimental not only for our ecosystems, but for us as well, as bees are responsible for producing a third of the food on our supermarket shelves. So like you said,
Oh.
in the butterfly effect, if we take this singular species out of our food chains, you can imagine like the catastrophic chain of events that will follow. So that's why I'm really passionate about enrolling in this community project, not just for our bees, but our other pollinators, and educating others to ensure that we do have a thriving ecosystem for our future generations to enjoy.
Why are they under threat? Obviously, pesticides
Yeah.
would be an issue, I'm assuming, and then
Mm-hmm.
particularly a bit earlier on, and more so in some countries than others, there have been some very harmful pesticides used that we were assured were safe at the time, and then it turns out, hey, these things that kill all the insects, they're actually bad for you.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. But aside from maybe, let's say, pesticides, and I don't know how much of the problem that causes, but what are the other causes of the declining population in pollinators?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I'd say loss of habitat.
Okay.
97%, as I've said, of our wildflower meadows have been lost. Industry is another huge issue. If these species don't have areas to thrive, if they don't have plants to pollinate, how are they meant to survive and thrive and ensure a good surviving ecosystem? So I definitely say those two. But to go back to your point about pesticides, that's a huge issue that we face here during the UK, and that's why sustainable farming is going to be the future of our industry here. This is something that our governments need to work hand in hand with farmers on, to develop a system, a sustainable system, to ensure that we're not only ensuring the thriving industry of farmers, because it's unfair to put this burden on them and expect them to achieve this outcome alone, because obviously profit will be affected. And we're going through a difficult financial time here in the UK. But no, definitely governmental legislation, and that's why I'm so passionate about becoming an environmental lawyer. But back to pesticides, as I've said, we have a pesticide here called the neonicotinoids, and necessarily a teaspoon of this pesticide can kill up to 35 million bees. That is absolutely devastating, just a teaspoon. So you can imagine how powerful that is.
We spray this on the stuff that we're going to eat.
No, it's absolutely, it's startling to me that we're consuming this. And there are greener alternatives. Although you might compensate some of the stock, it'll be healthier for our environment and for us as the consumers as well. So being able to get in contact with our governments, being a change maker is something that's really important, and advocating against these neonicotinoids, which are used in emergency circumstances, but it's often circumvented. They're often used against, or there's loopholes within the legislation.
Right.
So that's why it's really important to strengthen our laws.
Yeah.
But I'd say definitely in terms of habitat loss, pesticides, growing industry, are probably the biggest issues facing our bees.
Right. And just to clarify, the habitat loss, so the 97% that you quoted, is that mainly due to climate change, or has that land been cleared for other uses? Why has it
Mostly
been
agriculture.
Mostly agriculture? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's due to
So
industry. It's climate change has little effect. It's often climate change is the result.
right.
In the fact that the nature is depleting, but it's man-made causes. The fact that this has been happening since the 1930s. So you can imagine the rapid increase in industry and population, and obviously something's got to give. And nature's come at the cost of that. And that's why it's so important to me as an advocate, a climate advocate, and as Miss Earth Wales, to encourage people to develop these new sustainable solutions and to propose growing industry, because after all, like, economy is such a part to our lifestyle, but not at the detriment of nature, as we will not survive without a thriving ecosystem and thriving natural world.
Yeah. There was someone, I think it was a scientist, who quoted, if all the bees on Earth or all the insects on Earth disappeared tomorrow, all life would cease like within a
Yeah.
year. But if all humans disappeared from Earth, then all other life would flourish within a year. And I think that says a lot to the
Yeah.
human capacity, both for good and, let's say, for not so good.
Yeah.
But can I ask you this? Because obviously you're very passionate, and I can tell there are a lot of changes that you would like to enact and see people do. But it almost sounds like you're, I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but very often these changes, yes, you can do your little bit. But if we could just get our politicians, now I don't think politicians necessarily will save the world,
Yeah.
but certainly good legislation, smart policy can go a very long way. And I think, for
100%.
example, you talk about certain pesticides being used and there are loopholes. Very often that's profit driven because the politicians have been bought out by industry. And it's a really giant issue. I don't know how much in the UK. In America, it is a gigantic problem.
Yeah.
But how, I mean, because you did talk in front of the Welsh Parliament, right? I'm just curious, like, how receptive were they? And moving forwards, how much do you think you'll be interacting with the politicians as a primary way of affecting some of the changes that we've discussed?
So in terms of interacting with Welsh Parliament, that was on the grounds of sustainable tourism. So ensuring that we interact with our local community, preserve our current environment, but also accommodate the visitor. There needs to be a balance achieved to have all of these factors and ensure that there's a thriving industry necessarily, as well as an ecosystem. But like you said, with politicians, these are merely change makers. They have the power and the influence to be able to achieve these mass changes. And that's why I'd really love to go into environmental legislation, become a lawyer, be able to advocate for these causes. Because to be able to advocate and speak out for these issues, to have that platform is something I'd really love if I was to become Miss Earth. This is a legacy I want to leave behind. This is something that's so deeply rooted in my cause and so close to my heart. So I'd love to work very closely with global change makers, our influences across the world. If I was to win Miss Earth, one of the first things I'd love to do is attend the COP29 climate conference, which is often labelled the financial conference, which is set about to set financial goals for the climate crisis. Because ultimately that is going to be the biggest issue, and there's set to be billions invested in these new industries to help our climate. But it's all about achieving harmony, achieving global standards and setting about these ambitious changes. We need global agreements and treaties. We can't be arguing over this. This is such a detrimental issue. So being able to attend something like that and as Miss Earth and interact with these politicians and really hammer home the importance of protecting our natural world will be something that's deeply rooted in my cause. And even if I don't achieve the title, this is something that's such a massive part in my life. I can't speak about this enough. I will continue this long after being Miss Earth, handing over my crown for Miss Earth Wales. This is something I'll continue doing for the rest of my life. I feel like I found my cause in this environment, in this organisation, and setting about legal change and interacting and trying to do as much as I possibly can, making my small individual actions to achieve big change is something that's going to totally take over my life, but I think I'm okay with it.
Going to take over your life. It kind of feels like it already has. I was going to say, you're using the wrong tense. I think this started a long time before your reign as Miss Earth Wales, and certainly feels like it's going to continue a long time after your reign as Miss Earth or Miss Earth Wales. I mean, this is a bit of a silly question, but hypothetically, right? Let's say not only that you win Miss Earth, but as the prize, you get, I don't know, like a magic wand, where with a wave of a wand, you could affect any change that you wanted. You could change the way people think. You could change what people value. You could change legislation, but you don't have unlimited wishes. You know, the whole kind of 3 wishes thing. But if you had that ability to change whatever you wanted with a magic wand, I'm just curious where you'd start, because there's obviously so much information in your head. And I'm just curious as to what you think are maybe the top priorities that if we address those, that's going to hopefully have a flow down effect or flow on effect and change everything else. So what would you target with your magic wand?
That's a really good question, Jeannie. But
Mhm.
I'd say generally there's three main factors. Obviously, I've talked a lot about environmental legislation. So achieving these international laws to put into ground these changes is something that's going to be really important. There's a global scheme called 30 by 30, which is necessarily the main objectives are to achieve 30% of our lands and seas protected by 2030. So that'd probably be my first wish, is
Okay.
achieving these environmental legislation goals to ensure that there's accountability held for those that are breaking these laws. I'd also say education,
Mhm.
and that comes in tie with the sense of community, being able to share this with others. We all have a role as custodians of the earth. So by making these small individual actions and changes, that it's not going to happen overnight. You can't be a perfect green eco warrior. But showing this transparency is something that's really important in my climate journey. It's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be easy, but what matters is the effort that you're putting in.
Yeah.
And if, as a community, we come together and we acknowledge the changes that we're making, you can imagine the global impact. If we all
Mm.
stopped using single-use plastic, it'd decrease the demand, it'd decrease the amount going into landfill. That's a rapid knock-on effect already.
Yeah.
So once again, small individual changes, encouraging this sense of community and education. Trying to think of the final thing now. Oh God, this is difficult. Um, they definitely be in terms of investment into green infrastructure. Because at the end of the day, it is a growing new industry, and I feel like there's a lot of skepticism about it. Because after all, we've relied on these old industries like oil, gas, fossil fuels for a very long time, and at the
Mm.
detriment of our environment. So investing in this in these new green infrastructures can hopefully not only benefit our economy but benefit our environment as well. So, in terms of touching base on legal grounds to hold accountability, people, but as well as industry, I feel like those are the main solutions to the climate crisis, for me anyway. But
That's quite comprehensive. You did well. That's not an easy question when you have that many things you want to do. Only getting to pick three is certainly not easy. Now, just clarify for me. You're studying law at the
Mhm.
moment. Is that correct? Feel
Yes.
free to have as much water as you want. I know
Yeah,
you're
thank
probably
you.
jet lagged and dehydrated. I don't know how you can be dehydrated in Wales. It's not. What has the weather been like in Wales? I forgot to ask because I lived there for months and I was miserable. Seasonal affective disorder. I didn't believe in it. Then I lived in Wales for a few months. I'm like, oh, it definitely is a thing. What's the weather been like in Wales? Also, bearing in mind that you just got back from India, where it's always
Oh,
hot.
I've been joking with my mum that I've brought back the sunshine with me because we've actually been really lucky. It's been quite dry here, so I'm like, well, you can thank me now. But I think it's set to rain in the next coming week. But I'm off to the Philippines, so it's okay. But no, it's actually been okay here. I'm not like, have I touched down in Wales? I'm not very sure. But no, hopefully it holds off and stays nice. I don't mind temporary quick rain showers, but as you know from living in Wales, when it rains, it really hammers down and it's miserable and it's wet and it's cold. And when you have the wind blowing you in the face and you're thinking, oh my goodness, can it get worse than this? But no,
I,
it's actually been
I don't
okay
know.
for the past
It
week.
was it was just soggy. I think I
It's
don't know if I was there
miserable,
in a
yeah.
particularly bad, but it didn't rain hard. It just rained, and it
A
was so
lot.
light that it would rain. It was horizontal rain, and you'd be
Yeah,
walking on the streets.
like
And
that.
for some reason in the UK, your guys' sidewalks are like this narrow, and they're right next to the cars, and you're
Yeah.
walking, trudging along in your jacket, horizontal rain, and then by the time you get back to your student accommodation or whatever it is, like it's great to get back, but you don't feel like going out or doing anything because you just want to
No.
stay indoors the whole time.
Yeah,
So,
just be cozy. No, totally. There was one day that I had, and I was coming back from the airport, I think, and I was dragging my suitcase along the side of the pavement, like you said, pouring down with rain, and I got soaked by a lorry who just happened to drive through a puddle by the side. And I thought, surely this is illegal. I'm sure it's illegal in the UK to soak a pedestrian on the in the puddle. But I thought, God, I hope that gave you a laugh, lorry driver.
um, If he saw it, I mean, he may not have seen it.
Oh,
But so you're studying law.
yes.
What give us a gateway into that? Because I have a few friends who are studying
Mhm.
law, and from my understanding, there is a lot of reading, a
There
lot of
is.
reading, and then
Mhm.
a lot of reading. So, what's a day in the life of a law student like?
So I'm only in my first week at the moment. I've only just started my lectures and stuff. So still very
Okay.
new into it. But much like your friends, there's a lot of reading material. I don't mind because I'm a total bookworm and a bit of a nerd. But no, lots of reading material. I feel like to be a law student, you have to be very well organised and very motivated and disciplined.
Mm.
So it's definitely keeping myself in check. But so far, the content's been super interesting. Like, we've covered several topics from public to criminal to contract. So it's really getting a feel for our legal system. A lot of writing as well, which I don't mind. I really enjoy essay-based subjects. So I'd say it's definitely a subject for me. But you've got to be very disciplined and motivated to do law, I'd have to say.
Well, I mean, you've made a good start. I mean, you're only 1 week in, but I mean, that sounds like a good start.
Very
Uh, ha-
optimistic.
so, hang on, you're going to be like, when do you leave for Miss Earth?
Very soon, very soon. I'm not sure if Danny will let me say, but very soon.
Okay, keeping everything secret. But what you're going to be like, what, 2 weeks or 3 weeks into your first semester as a law student, and then you're going to be buggering off to the other side of the world. I mean, I'm assuming that you make friends in your law class. I mean, how do
Yeah.
you explain to them, oh yeah, I won't be here next week? Oh, what's going on? Oh, I'm flying to the Philippines to compete in a pageant. You what? Oh yeah, I miss Earth Wales. I mean, has that discussion come up, and how have they reacted to said
Yeah.
discussion?
So funny enough, we were having that conversation last night. So in my student
Okay.
accommodation, there's two flats on the ground floor. I'm on the ground floor as well. So we were in the other flat in the kitchen and they were talking about Halloween costumes. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be here for Halloween. And they were like, why are you going home? I'm like, well, no, I'm going to be in the Philippines. But they're all incredibly fascinated. Like, I keep forgetting about the fact that the UK pageant system, if you're not in it, not a lot of people have that understanding. I mean,
Mm.
coming into pageantry myself at the age of 16, I had no idea. I just chucked myself headfirst into every opportunity and tried to engross myself in it as much as possible. But for an outsider, they just find it fascinating. They're like, is it like toddlers and tiaras? I was like, no, it's a lot more glamorous. But no, absolute fascination. And they've all been super supportive and really interested. They've even talked about throwing a streaming party to watch the final. So I was like, oh my
You,
goodness. But no,
might
everyone's
need
been
to
very
check the
supportive.
time zone difference there. It might be like at 3 in the morning, or like it always. Actually, no. The Philippines for me is fairly civil. Like I think I'm a
Yeah.
couple of hours ahead, but I don't know the time difference to the
I think it's
UK. That
7 hours here. We're 7 hours behind them. So if it happens late in the night, it'll be like afternoon here. So it's not too bad. I mean, if you were
it's not
ahead
too.
again, though, it'd be a bit of a nightmare.
Is my partner at the time, she was living in student accommodation at
Yeah.
one of the universities, Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. There you go. I just remembered
That's
it.
right up the
Um,
road for me.
hmm is student accommodation as I'm trying to think of a way to put this. Is it
Right
is it
adjective now.
as cramped and lovely, cozy as I remember it to be?
It's definitely cozy, I'll give you that. Um, yeah, you just gotta lay down the law about the kitchen and cleanliness. But no, I'm really lucky to have a bunch of amazing flatmates. They're all very good. They're all lovely. Always up for a chat, which as a professional yapper, I love. Always good at making a cup of tea. But no, I'd say it's definitely cozy, but no complaints so far, but we'll see after the Philippines.
That's always good if you can get in with good housemates or
Yeah.
good flatmates. But the cleanliness and sharing the fridge. That was
Oh,
always a recurring problem. And then people would cook and leave all the utensils out and make a
oh,
huge
don't.
mess.
It hasn't been too
Yeah,
bad for me so far, but I've managed to claim the top shelf in the fridge, so at least I have no one's stuff dripping onto mine.
okay.
Very
Are you
clean.
a neat freak?
A little bit, yeah. I like my
Okay.
organisation. I like my cleanliness. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, but
Okay.
No, as long as there's order or some sort of cleanliness, I'm happy. It's good. But
All right, let me ask you this. Not that you have any free time, but if you were to have free time, if you were to have free time, what would you do with it? Just for relaxation's sake.
gonna sound very typical, but I love going out on walks and exploring my local area. In our student accommodation, I took my friend on a walk the other day. We're really lucky to live by a beautiful river. So we went up for a walk along the river trail, which was really relaxing. I really enjoy going out on long walks. I mean, it's a way to keep healthy and fit, but also to spend time out in nature, which I found is so important for my mental clarity and de-stress, to be
Yeah.
able to turn off my electronics, leave it there, and just have like a few hours to myself. I'm also a huge bookworm. I love reading, so definitely pick up a book and have a cup of tea would be another thing that I do. I also really enjoy photography, particularly wildlife
Hmm.
photography. So if I had the opportunity, I definitely take out the camera, take a couple of shots, and just generally spending time with friends when I get the chance. Because I am a bit of a
Yeah.
social butterfly. I'd call myself a social butterfly, and I enjoy mingling with people. So that's what I do if
Yeah.
I was on spare time. But it'd be nice.
It's 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 not difficult to see the social butterfly. I think you're going to feel very at home at Miss Earth. You'll be making a lot of friends. Are you anywhere? Was it Cardiff Bay, the main bay in the middle of the city on the water? Or am I?
Yeah.
Is that? Are you anywhere near that?
It's about. Let me think. Is it? I think it's like a 40-minute walk, but
Okay, that's not
it's hard because
not.
I've got to go through town and stuff, and then you've got to go around. But yeah, the bay is lovely though.
Yeah, I do remember enjoying that area. My
Mhm.
my partner at the time, she was a huge. Well, she was working on like BBC productions. She was a
Yeah,
costumer and set designer, so she wanted to work on Doctor Who and all those sorts of things. So spent a lot of time
yeah.
around
There's
the
a
bay, and that
studio. Yeah, the
yeah,
bay.
yeah, that was quite nice. So we can't disclose when you're leaving yet, but what has the preparation been like? And bearing in mind, because obviously you have so much information in your head, you're so passionate about all these topics and obviously hugely knowledgeable. But we've got to remember it's a pageant at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
you have to, walk up on it. There's all the other stuff as well, which we haven't really talked about. So how has that area of preparation gone for yourself?
I tell you what, it's been a total whirlwind, but I've really enjoyed the preparation. I feel like the support I've received, whether it be off designers, my director Danny, she's given me her absolute attention. She's been absolutely incredible, and I couldn't think of anyone better to go through this process with. My pageant admin, Linnell, she's been absolutely amazing in organising interviews and such like. I really enjoyed doing the Passarella training. I enjoy walking, so being able to refine those skills, and especially in sky high heels as well, is something that I'm enjoying. I can't wait to further develop. Interview skills as well. I'd say, as a yapper, as I've said before, I love doing interviews, engaging with other people. But no, styling as well has been another huge thing that I've really enjoyed in the build up, pulling all my outfits together. Can't wait to show my national costume. That's something that's really exciting and I really enjoyed being a part of. But no, the whole process has just gone so quickly. I can't believe that the final's literally in a month. I'm like, oh my god, it hasn't sunk in for me yet. But no, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself when it's all over. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, you going back to, I mean, it'll be Christmas when you come back, so that'll
I
be
know.
something to look forward to. And then you're back to law school, which you seem to enjoy. It's probably
Yeah.
not everybody's cup of tea. The Passarella training, are you kind of like walking in the student accommodation, down the common hall to the kitchen, and you're going around there? Or you don't have a lot of space probably to practice your
No, probably
Passarella.
not. I need to psych out my flatmates a bit more whether I can decide to go into the kitchen with heels on. Might give them a bit of a fright, but no, I'm really lucky. We got a student gym here, so tend to just book a room. Or I literally live 35 minutes down the road from Cardiff, so it's really easy to go home and practice my stuff there. I'm always popping home. My mum said, "You've never left, you're still here." But So no, that's like one of the many ways. But pastorala training's been going on over the past couple of months. So it's been
Mhm.
able to refine those skills and such like that I've been really lucky to have that build up. But yeah.
How many suitcases are we taking over?
Oh, too many, too many. I don't think I'd have enough hands to pull them through the airport. I
Have you
just
got
hope they're
anyone
under the
going
weight
with you?
allowance. So
Well,
I'm actually flying out with Danny.
okay.
So she's good as gold. I was like, oh my god, Dan, you're gonna have to be my airport dad. Manage all the stuff. But so no, we're flight buddies. Hopefully bagging a first class, but I don't know, we'll see.
That'd be something. I was going to
It
say
would.
she can. I mean, apart from I wasn't thinking airport dad. I was thinking more like baggage. I was thinking more like baggage mule. You know, someone who can a porter or something like that. Put her to work whilst you look glamorous. That's it, exactly. Oh, baggage mule. Oh, baggage mule. Oh, servant. Oh, servant. I'm sure she'd love that idea. But she's probably going to punch me the next time that she sees me. Did she ever tell you about what I did to her when she won her Miss Galaxy title?
No? Spill?
Okay, so you know how these pageants go. This was in Texas, the big international title. Bear in mind,
Yeah.
we'd had a 3-year hiatus or something like that because of COVID.
Yeah.
So obviously, she'd been preparing forever and ever and ever. And I was the MC along with Maria, who's a CEO of Galaxy International.
She's amazing.
And
I love Maria.
yeah, I got to see the scores immediately because they were electronically calculated. So I knew who had won. But the thing is, you need to call out like a top 10 and then a top 5, but you need to mix up
build
the
up,
order. Yeah. And so I saw Danny's name and I'm like, I'm going to make her sweat a bit. So I deliberately called her out stone cold last in that list. And if you watch her reaction, because it's on YouTube, if you
I will have
watch
to
her
look it up.
reaction when I call out her name, she looks like she's about to have a heart attack. And
Oh,
then when
lovely.
she's in the final two, and I get to call out first runner up. So if I call out your name, you haven't won.
Yeah.
And I dragged it out. I made it like a 10-second announcement. So she wasn't happy with that. She almost tried punching me afterwards, but you know,
You were
I
working
don't blame her.
overtime. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh
we've
no, I bet it must have been painstaking for her because there's nothing worse than the wait. And I feel like that moment on stage when you're holding hands with the other girl, time slows down. It just feels
time
like
stops.
It literally does. So like, whew, I got a laugh in my top 2 crowning moment video. I'm giving Saran, my runner-up, who's absolutely incredible, a pep talk. So I'm just there like this, that, giving her a pep talk. And my mum
You've
praised
got
me.
this.
She went, "What
You've
are you
got
doing?"
this.
And I was like, "I'm yapping as per." But no, it literally did stop. It felt so surreal.
Did you hear what Danny did when she won Miss Galaxy UK?
No, I need to get clued up.
How come she hasn't told you all this stuff? So she collapsed to the floor, not on her back, but she went down, crouching.
Yeah.
And then she realized she didn't want to do that because she doesn't like how that looks. So she stood back up. But the problem was, as she went down to the ground, her first runner-up leant in to give her a hug and to help her. As she came back up, she head-butted her first runner-up in the face.
Oh my goodness.
So your director seems to have not been sharing all the good stuff with you.
No, like, to be fair, we don't have enough time, but I'm totally going to grill her on the long flight now.
Yeah, I can give you I'll just give you a list of questions and you can ask her.
Give me the debrief. So, Dan, Adrian's just like give me the rundown of stuff I need to ask you.
Yes.
Give me the goss.
You probably won't be able to record the answer, let's put it that way. But what was it like when you won your title? I mean, can you remember? I mean, time stops, but can you remember like the emotions and the feelings when you realized that you were Miss Earth Wales?
As it was my second pageant, I just can't describe the feeling of absolute overwhelming joy. It felt absolutely surreal. This is something I worked so long and put all of my every fibre of my being into. But I felt like I was on this Miss Earth journey long before becoming a finalist, from the age of 8 when I started this volunteering. So seeing all my hard work and effort build up and be rewarded in this sense and being awarded that title and being trusted to represent Wales on an international stage like Miss Earth, is something that I'm eternally grateful for, this opportunity. And being the youngest girl competing at Miss Earth Wales as well, I learned so much from the other girls that I feel like I can bring a lot to the Miss Earth stage as one of the younger contestants. A lot of people may see this as a possible disadvantage. I haven't had as long of a time or further life experience. But personally, considering how long I've been into environmental advocacy,
Yeah.
I see it as a total advantage. And I can't wait to share my experiences with the world on this international stage.
What are you most looking forward to over in the Philippines?
Oh, I'd say definitely exploring the culture and the food. I've heard a lot of good things, the weather as well, but the whole experience, the ecological tasks I'm really excited for. I know we have a fashion show opening for the arrival ceremony, the sashing. That's going to be absolutely incredible, and I really can't wait to see my designer. So that's something I'm really excited for. But the whole experience, I feel like it's going to absolutely fly by so quickly. But if I had to put it down to one thing, I'd say getting the opportunity to meet all of these incredible like-minded women from across the world who have come together for this shared passion for our environment and as change makers, and we'll forever have that sisterhood, that tie to each other.
Mm.
So after all, it is a high intensity environment, and I feel like we can only understand each other. But having this opportunity and this chance to connect with others, which I never would have had if I didn't get into pageantry, is something, once again, I'm eternally grateful for. I've spoken to a lot of the girls, they all seem really lovely, but I just can't wait to meet them in person.
How many girls are we up to now?
Oh, I'm not sure at the moment. I'll have to double check.
I've heard like 70, 80, 90. It's creeping towards 100 from what I understand.
Yeah, there's a few there's a lot of delegates on the list, I think. But in terms of ones being crowned, I think we're at the 60 mark.
That's still a lot.
It is a lot, but I know there's quite a lot of crownings coming up now, but
right.
No, it should be good to see.
Well, it's not long to go, and then you'll be jetting over from soggy old Wales to the Philippines. I mean, let me just ask you this, because you said in India you love the food. You had paneer. I don't think in any student accommodation in the world anywhere there's going to be paneer. And then when I asked you about the Philippines, you talked about food again. In terms of Welsh food, the only thing that I remember is, what were they? It's not scones. What is it? It's Welsh like the jam. That I did like those.
They're good
aside from that,
tea.
I'm a coffee drinker, so that don't work for me. Yeah, no, I get that. I hate tea, so it's all right. It's okay. We can get off. But what other Welsh foods are there? Because the only other thing I remember is Welsh love spoons. I did like the Welsh love spoons.
They're very cute.
But Welsh food. What other Welsh foods are there? So
something that my nan tends to make is something called cawl, which is like a soup. It's very hearty, considering it's very cold and wet here. It's a nice bowl of soup you can kick your feet up to, chuck on the telly, have a nice drink. It's nice and cozy, warms you up. So no, I love cawl. It's probably a comfort meal of mine. And you can obviously have any meat you want in that sort of stew. Welsh cakes as well, an absolute classic. Most of my flatmates are English, so I have to do a tasting session with them, psych it out. Bara Brith is another one. It's like a fruit cake. They actually discontinued it from Morrison's, so I've got beef with them. But you have that with tea as well. Probably not up your street, but it's okay because I drink enough tea for the both of us. No, like our foods tend to be quite hearty, warm, comforting, not exactly spicy. I wouldn't say any sort of spice. So that's why I really enjoy going to different countries, exploring their food and tastes, because it's something so different. But...
Okay, because that's interesting, because I know a lot of people who haven't had a lot of spice growing up, they can't stomach the spice. You know, anytime they go overseas, anything that, not even that it's really spicy, it's just mild, and they just cannot have it. So it's interesting. You said that that's something that you actually enjoyed, was getting to taste all the different foods.
Yeah. Feeling the burns part of the fun.
I won't ask. I mean, there are some very, very hot curries that you could have that you probably don't want to be feeling the burn too much. Let's just put it that way.
Probably Probably not. Like, I've been okay so far, like, but I just try my best to try everything at least once. As long as it's not something too outlandish, but
That's a good attitude to have in general. I will say when you go to Chinese restaurants, which I've been going to all my life, it can get you into trouble.
yeah.
I've had some foods that were still moving. That wasn't. I still have nightmares about that.
Oh
So
no.
yeah,
Have you got a
there
favorite
is.
food? A favorite Chinese food?
Well, favorite Chinese food is probably Peking duck. That's like the
I
crispy.
actually love duck, and my nan's a vegetarian. So we went out to a restaurant and I had duck, and she was there like, I can't believe you're eating duck. I'm like, Nanny, leave me alone. It's so
If
good.
you ever get a chance to go to a good Chinese restaurant, and I do mean a good one because there are
Uh-huh.
plenty of bad ones, and you have
I'll
the
have to take
Peking duck,
recommendations.
it's served on a pancake, a soft pancake that's warmed up, and
Yeah.
it's just the crispy skin of a duck coated in this lovely hoisin sauce, and then it's served with a stick of cucumber and a stick of shallot, and you roll it up, and it's got the texture, it's got the salt, it's got the sweet, and
It
that's
sounds
just perfect.
incredible. It's because you've got the flavour balance there, but it's still so light.
Mm.
Oh my god, I
They're
could
really
probably
small.
demolish her. Yeah.
Well, it also comes as two courses. So you get your pan. I don't know how we got onto this subject, but
The best
you have the
combo.
pancakes. You have the pancakes as a first course, and then you
Yeah.
get the second course because they only cut the skin off for the first course. So the second course, you get the meat of the duck, and you can have it in these what they call sang choy bao, which is an
Yeah.
iceberg lettuce cup, and it's in there. It's put the rest of the duck with
Yeah.
some shallots and some other vegetables, and so you eat this thing. It's like you eat the cup. So, or you could have it as noodles. So
That sounds so good. I'm definitely
I mean,
gonna have to do it.
I will say I don't know about Chinese restaurant in Wales. I certainly wasn't brave enough to try Chinese restaurants
I
in
don't blame
Wales. Maybe
you.
it's changed. But I can give you recommendations if you ever come to Australia, that's for sure. But Wales, I'm not so sure.
No, I'd love to go
But
to Australia, but
well, your director has said multiple times that she wants to come down here as well. So,
I'll just have to sneak into her suitcase if she goes.
well, you're bigger than her, so maybe she should
The
fit
other
into
way,
your
yeah, that's more
suitcase.
tactical, yeah.
Yes, and then you won't have to put up with her on the flight. Anyway. Oh dear. Just in case people don't know, I know Danny very well. We're very good friends. She used to be my podcast co-host. So I'm not actually I am throwing shade, but I'm doing it with love. Danny's going to send me a message after this and cuss me out. Yeah, but no. It comes from a place of love. Anyway, Grace, before we get to the final 10, anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
Massive shout out to my family first and foremost. They've been so supportive, and thank you for tolerating me in the prep, because I know it hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of stuff to get done, but no, they've been absolutely incredible, and I'm going for a leaving meal with them tomorrow night. Before I go to the Philippines, final goodbye, but not going yet. Also a massive thank you to Danny. Although we've sanded you today, you've been an absolute gem, and no, best director a girl could ask for. Your support means the absolute world to me, and thank you for being an amazing director to your queens, as well as the Elemental Wales Court as well. Also, a huge thank you to my pageant admin, Linnell, for all of your support, advice. I really appreciate it, and I truly couldn't have done it all without you. And to the fans as well. I've been really lucky to have been mentioned in countless top 20 picks, and their support means the absolute world to me so far. Like, I know the Earthlings are a very involved group of fans, so to be able to have their support and them to share their advice and tips as well has been something that I really enjoyed taking on board. And thank you for this interview as well, Adrian.
Oh, that's right. You're not getting away from me just yet. I still have some more questions to ask you. I was feeling a little bit sick when you started complimenting Danielle, so I feel like I will need to put more slander in there to balance out all the sugar. I mean, you said we slandered. You didn't slander. I did all the slandering. You've been very complimentary. So, we're balancing each other out here.
The balance.
Yeah, but we'll see. You said nice things about her, so now I have to say more stuff. Anyway, let's get to these. Let's get to these final 10, shall we? So, number 1, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word, probably phenomenal. The girls in India, I was one of the only Welshies, and they loved hearing the word phenomenal with a Welsh accent. Phenomenal, but and also I'll
Okay.
never. Also, I keep hammering on about Wales's phenomenal wild experiences and natural phenomenons, but no. So I'd probably say that's my favorite word. Very basic, very easy, but strange
It's
reasoning. But
it's not that easy. It has a lot of syllables. Believe me, most girls pick words that have fewer syllables than phenomenal. I say phenomenal. You seem to be saying phenomenal. I don't know.
it's
The
definitely the
Welsh accent.
accent.
The Welsh accent is a weird one for me. I could never actually. Have you ever heard Danny do her Welsh accent?
Oh my god, it's so funny. I can't cope.
I don't know how she does it. She does a stone cold. I don't know if you know Emma Jenkins, a former Miss
Yeah,
Universe Great Britain.
Llanelli, yeah.
Yeah, she sounds exactly like Emma. It was weird. We had a podcast with
Yeah,
Danielle, and Emma came on, and I got Danielle. I made Danielle do her Emma Jenkins
love it.
impression in front of Emma Jenkins, and it was received relatively well. Let's put it that way. Anyway, okay, phenomenal. That's a new one. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. I've never been asked that question before, actually, so it's definitely a strange one. Let me think. Can I make it 2 and say climate change?
Sure, that makes sense.
Changing up
Fair
the
enough.
rules. But
Number 3 in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
I'd say definitely new opportunities. As someone that chucks themselves head first into everything, I've received countless opportunities and only been rewarded in new experiences. So having these opportunities come around, I feel like if you put yourself out to the universe, you'll be rewarded. But no, definitely new opportunities, new experiences. I'm always down to try something new. But that definitely gets me excited. I can't sit still. I've constantly got to be doing something, if you can't tell already. But no,
I can,
definitely.
yes. It's very obvious. I can tell. What about what turns you off?
Ooh, rude people. I can't deal. Or people, I should say more specifically, not open to other people's opinions or to be educated. I feel like in terms of climate crisis, a lot of people shut it down, turn it off, not interested, not engaged. I'm like, well, if you give me a chance to explain to you, perhaps I'll be a basic, decent human.
When
But
you say that, do you look at them with that expression? Because that expression was quite scary.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, will let me tell you. But
I
no.
feel like I'm in personal danger here when you're looking at me like
You
that.
insult my director, but
Hey, I might have insulted your director, but you laughed, so you're culpable as
just
well.
as bad, just as bad. But
100%, I'm blaming you. What sound do you love?
what sound?
Do you love?
Ooh, birds chirping. Very simple, very plain. I'm like Snow White. But no, going out on walks, hearing birds chirping, it's lovely. Very relaxing, sweet.
There's a after we get off this interview, I'll show you. I don't know if you've seen what a king parrot is. It's
I
it's
think I
like a
have.
pirate bird, right? So you think those big bright red parrots,
Yeah.
and they live around here. I'm in the bush, but around here,
Oh,
because we're so integrated with nature, they're very tame. And so and they mate for life, by the way. One of the only
oh,
animal species that does that. And the red one, who's a male, often will land right there outside the balcony, start chirping for me. I go
oh.
outside, get the wildflower, the seeds that I have,
Yeah.
and I go out there with a little red cup. And they're so tame, they'll come right up to me. The other day, it landed on my arm
Oh
to
my
take the
gosh.
seeds. That was, I love that. I don't know why it's something that's just so reconnecting, so
Yeah.
grounding.
No, it's
You have
so
all this
lovely.
craziness
Yeah.
going on in the world, but just to have like a bird trust you enough to land on your arm to
Yeah,
take the
it's that
seeds.
like mutual respect and understanding for each other. Like totally
Yeah,
different species, don't obviously totally different understandings of the world and outlooks. But it's that
yeah,
connection with nature, like you said, is so important.
yeah. It does help living next to it, I will say. I think if you live in a big concrete jungle of a city, it's very difficult to
Yeah.
have that connection. Well, that's the sound that you love. What about what sound do you hate?
Ooh. Music being blasted outside student accommodation at 3 a.m. But
You sound like you're saying that from personal experience.
maybe. But no, it hasn't been too bad. Hate the sound of traffic as well, to be honest. I feel like
I
living
don't
in
think
a
many
city
people
and
love
stuff.
that.
No,
I
not
think
when I'm particularly
next,
keen to. I'd rather be a bit off the grid. But
that makes sense. I think next time you have that loud music being played outside your accommodation, you should open up your window and yell outside, I miss Earth Wales and I need my sleep, and see how
you
well
know
that
what? I'll
goes for
have
you.
to try it.
I miss Earth Wales. Go to sleep now. So see how that goes for you. Okay, number 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Ooh, that's got to be really. That's got to be a difficult one. I've got two. I'd say either talk to animals or I'd say telepathy, especially in the Miss Earth circumstances. I'd love to know what everyone's thinking, but quite
Are
nosy
you
in that
sure?
sense. But
Are you sure? Everyone who says they want to know what other people are thinking, I'm always like, it sounds like good in theory, but you might be scared of what some other people are thinking.
yeah, they're probably thinking, God, I'm starving right now. I could really do with some food.
Yes, that has cropped up from time to time. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. What job would you most like to attempt?
Ooh, generally, like regardless of degree and stuff, I gotta say, I'd love to be able to sing. I can't sing to save my life, considering I'm from the land of song. I'm getting the side down, but no, I'd love to be able to
I've
sing. It's that creative aspect. I love it.
I've never met a Welsh person who can't sing.
I don't want to try it out for you. I'd probably kill your eardrums, not gonna lie. But
Well, I am very musical, so I do appreciate the heads up. What happens when you sing?
glasses shatter. It's
Scare away all the
technically good.
wildlife, scare away all the the bees and the
Yeah.
butterflies.
Noise
That's not very.
pollution.
You said you were Snow White, but that's not very Snow White of you if you can't
It's
sing.
really not. It's no. I gotta up my game, but
Yeah, you can't be a Disney princess if you can't sing. Anyway, number 9. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
ooh, probably anything in accounting and finance. Doesn't interest me. I don't know. That's why, even though I'm going into legal profession and it's typically associated with being sat behind a desk, I want to be a barrister so I can get up, stand in front of a court, socialise with people. So anything sat behind a desk all day doesn't particularly appeal to me, especially as a social butterfly and someone who enjoys doing stuff, getting up, moving around. It's just not for me. And also, I'm not the best at maths, so we'll leave that there. But
Well, it's good to know there's something that you're not amazing at. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gate?
ooh, that's a really good question, and I feel like faith is something that's all different to each of us. But considering my strong, like, familial ties, family is everything to me. Like, I'd probably say like they're waiting for you, and like in a sense, it does sound a little bit creepy out of context. But I lost my grandfather a week before the Miss Earth Wales final, and I feel like he's really held my hand through this journey. He's here with me constantly, helping. I don't know. It's just something that's very personal, and he's one of the ones that have inspired me to embrace our nature and wildlife from a young age. So hearing the fact that he's there waiting for me, got a lot of catch up on. But no, that's what I'd like to hear.
Beautiful. Well, Grace, how about we leave it there? I've kept you on for well over an hour.
It's
Probably 20
absolutely
minutes of it.
flown.
Well, probably 20 minutes of me was me dissing your director, but that's okay. That's
We
neither
won't
here
tell
nor
her,
there.
it's fine.
A public interview, Grace, so she can. Everyone has seen it. So
It's fine, Danny. We love you.
I'll clip out. I mean, speak for yourself. I'll clip out all the parts where we were where, where I was talking about her. I'll put it into a little montage and I'll tag her in it.
Yeah, let's
And
get it spread everywhere if it does.
yes, oh, she's not going to be happy to see me. Anyway, let's leave it there, Grace. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time and best of luck over in the
Thank you
Philippines.
so much for having me. I've really enjoyed.
I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.